Yo guys, hey, what's up? It's your boy here, Ken. It's late, but I'm just too pumped and too excited. We got to talk about the AEW All Out pay-per-view. I saw it tonight at a local movie theater with my brother and some friends. Like, holy shit. This was the best AEW pay-per-view in this company's 2 year history, going on 3 years. Bar none. This was the best produced match. Pay per view AEW has ever done, and they just rocked the wrestling world tonight. They rocked the wrestling world tonight. There are some wrestling fans, some wrestling podcasters I know in particular that aren't very fond of AEW on Twitter. Kevin Castle. They're quiet on Twitter. Some a little bit bitter, come across a little bit bitter, but then there are others that are not the biggest fans of AEW, but they're very quiet because they know AEW. They're here to fucking play, and they're not playing no fucking games. This pay per view was absolutely amazing, and to have it here in Chicago, I mean, just dope, just dope. I'm a little biased when it comes to my city, when it comes to within the world of professional wrestling. And tonight, Chicago's been spoiled. We've been spoiled for almost 3 weeks. We've been spoiled, and it's pretty damn awesome. So I'll say this here: the pre-show was a 10-man tag match. This was good. The Jurassic Express and Best Friends won. The official pay per view opened up with Miro defending the TNT title against Eddie Kingston. This was a really good, stiff, hard brooding match. Honestly, I think excuse me, Miro's run as TNT champion. This was probably the most challenging match he's had as TNT champion. Because most people, Miro just kind of steamrolls through. But this was the most, I'd say, challenging title defense he's had so far against Kingston. But it got to a spot where Miro kicked Kingston between the legs, hit him on I think he stomped him on his head or his lower back, got him with the game over. And that was, no, I'm sorry. He didn't hit with the game over. He kicked him in the face, pinned Kingston, and won. So I think they're gonna do a rematch. I don't think his feud with Kingston is a one and done. But Miro successfully defended the title. Then we had Dean Ambrose versus Satoshi from New Japan. This match was good. For what it was. It was stiff. Moxley won. After Moxley won, Miro Inazuki from New Japan came out, shocked everyone. And they're going to be wrestling this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. That's going to be a good, hard-hitting, brutal match for sure. So that was cool to see him there. Then we got the AEW Women's Title match with Britt Baker defending the title against Statlander. This was one of the best AEW's women's title matches I've seen in a while. This was an AEW's women's match. Most AEW women's matches are kind of sloppy and botchy. But I thought both women looked great in this match. I was for the first time, most AEW women's title matches, with the exception of like maybe 2 or 3 I can think of on top of my head that I thoroughly enjoyed. Most of the women's matches I just kind of ignore. I was actually entertained and actually enjoyed this match. Nothing was botchy. The women worked hard. They looked great. Britt Baker was some of her move sets was I guess you could say a wink wink of her boyfriend, Adam Cole. So I thought that was great. Britt Baker successfully defended the women's title. Then we got the tag team titles in a cage match. Young Bucks defending the AEW tag titles against the Lucha Bros. This match was off the hook. This was match of the night, hands down match of the night. I can't even tell you what all happened in this like in detail because it was just a lot of stuff was going on and it was all great. Some people can call it a spot fest, but you know what? Some spot fests they can be entertaining and they can be good. And when it's the Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks, you know what you're getting. And it was a steel cage match, so that added another layer of excitement to the match, I should say, rather. But this match was crazy, all over the place. Both teams definitely have chemistry with each other. There was one spot where I think it was Matt Jackson, or no, Nick Jackson, had a pair of Jordans with spikes at the bottom of them. And he is super kicking, Pentagon and Phoenix in the face, and blood is dripping off their faces. And there was a couple close calls. You kind of thought, okay, well, the Bucks are going to retain, but they kicked out, or at least Phoenix broke the pinfall. Then you get to the final spot where Phoenix jumps off from the cage, lands on his brother Pentagon and the Young Bucks. Then they get up and they do their finisher on Nick Jackson, pin him, and the Lucha Bros are the new AEW Tag Team Champions. I thought this was great. I didn't expect the Lucha Bros to win, but I'm glad they did win. Young Bucks has been Tag Team Champions for a long time, since November. So even though I was wishing that they had lost it to Jurassic Express, I ain't complaining that they lost it to Lucha Bros either, because Lucha Bros are a good team. They deserve to be tag team champions. So yeah, excellent match, and like I said, match of the night. Then we get into the 15 Battle Royale, Casino Royale women's match. Winner of this will be the number one contender for the AEW Women's title. Again, my expectations for this match in particular was going in kind of low. I can honestly say, coming out of it, out of all of their Casino Battle Royale matches, this was the best one they've had, bar none. Most of the Casino Battle Royale matches that AEW has had in their pay-per-views, when they do have them, you get a lot of botches, you get a lot of guys that don't know where they are, don't know what they're doing, or when you get that surprise wild Joker card entrance, that person ends up kind of botching. So, this was actually, I thought, really well done. I don't know who put this match together, who produced it. Hopefully it wasn't Kenny Omega. But whoever put this Battle Royal together did an excellent job. I actually was entertained by this. When we got to the final draw, it ended up being Rhea Soho, formerly known as Rhea Ripley. We knew she was coming into AEW, and it was cool seeing her. She looked great. We got down to the final two, which was between her and Rhea and Thunder Rosa. Back and forth a little bit. I was thinking Thunder Rosa was going to get it, but they ended up giving it to Rhea. Rhea Soho, formerly known as Rhea Ripley, number one contender for the AEW Women's title. So that was really cool, interesting to see her there. Then we got into the Chris Jericho versus MJF match. Jericho's quote-unquote last match. I thought the beginning of this was great when they did the countdown, the Jericho countdown. I thought this was a great spot because everyone thought it was Chris Jericho. And I was kind of given like a little flashback to Edge doing the Brood entrance at SummerSlam. So I was like, oh, okay, Chris Jericho's going to do the same thing for himself. But after the countdown in it, it says Jericho's last match. And then MJF's music hits. I thought that was fantastic. Great heel moment. Get into the match. I don't want to say started off slow, but the match was good. It was a good match. There was a point where near the the first half of the match where Jericho does a power bomb on MJF outside the ring apron. MJF hits his back, kind of plays it out a little bit, and at one point I thought his back was like legitimately hurt. So they definitely what's what I'm looking for here. Give me a sense of disbelief. Suspend my sense of disbelief with that, because I definitely thought MJF was like working through some back pain, because he even said like when Jericho lifted him up, he was like, "Oh shit," and you could just hear him say that, and you just hear the thud. It just sounded really really bad. Anyways, uh, MJF had hit Jericho with his own finisher, pinned Jericho. The ref counted to 3, but Jericho's foot was on the rope, and so it would say that MJF had won. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, it looks like MJF won, but it looks like they may continue going forward with this in another match down the road. I don't know. But then a second referee comes out and says, hey, Jericho had his foot on the rope when you count to 2. That wasn't a 3. Restart the match. The match was restarted. Jericho put MJF in the Lion Tamer. As you know, he was working that. MJF's back was hurt the entire match, so that played into that. Jericho doing the submission hold, got him in the walls of Jericho. MJF tapped. That was it. Then we go on to CM Punk versus Darby Allin. I don't want to say one of. This was the key big match that everyone was looking forward to. Punk looked great. Punk looked like he didn't skip a beat. Punk was rocking some new ring gear. I kind of dig it. Physically, he looked great. He looked in shape. Darby, for Darby's about the size of a 15-year-old high school girl. So, despite their styles being vastly different, just their size comparisons was a little, I don't want to say jarring, but I was just like, I don't know how well this is going to mesh. But surprisingly, these two meshed really well, and they had a good match. Darby Allin was known to be a high flyer and do a lot of daring stuff, but Punk slowed him down, wrestled him to his pace, in his kind of pace of match. And I felt that it started a little slow, not in a bad way, but the match it started off slow, but it just built. It just kept building and building. And there was a spot where Punk just flung Darby Allin through the ring post, and I mean that dude spun like a Beyblade. I mean it was a really gnarly spot. Punk hit Darby with the GTS. Darby falls outside the ring. Kind of remind me of the Money in the Bank match between Punk and Cena a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago, but 10 years ago actually. Jesus, to think Money in the Bank was 10 years ago between Punk and Cena in Chicago. Anyways, then we get to a point, there was another cool spot where Darby Allin attempts to do the coffin drop, but Punk just lifts up and Darby just eats the canvas, and Punk just smiles like, haha, I got you. Pins him, Darby kicks out, Darby gets on the turnbuckles again, top turnbuckles, near the end of the match. He jumps on Punk, or tries to attempt whatever type of move he was trying to attempt, but Punk grabs him, hits him for a second GTS, pins him, and wins. CM Punk won. The crowd was hot for this. At this point, I think the crowd, in my opinion, the Chicago crowd kind of peaked with the Punk match in terms of like all the energy and excitement. Punk won. It was great. That was it. It was great seeing him back. I definitely look forward to seeing what Punk does next, moving forward. Then we had Big Show. Excuse me. Big Show and QT Marshall. I completely forgot this match was a thing on the card. Like literally, I forgot it was on the card. And some people, in the theater, they question like, why is this match like so high up on the card? This match should have been lower down. I get why they did it, because Punk being, the most energetic and boisterous match that the crowd was into, you needed something kind of cool the crowd down a little bit before you get to that main event. which was, we'll get to that. So despite the lack of interest for this match and its relevancy it had to the card, it was a good thing that they placed it where they did between the Punk match and the main event to kind of somewhat cool the crowd down so that they could be rejuvenated for that main event. Anyway, Big Show wins. So getting on to the main event, Kenny Omega defending the AEW World Title against Christian. This match was great. I don't know if I would say this match was as good as their first match on the debut episode of Rampage. I think I might like the Rampage match a little bit better, but this was still a good match. If there's one thing I have to criticize for tonight's pay-per-view, this main event and then some of the other matches too, where there were quite a few spots outside the ring where like dudes were using weapons and everything on their opponents, and it was like, is this a no disqualification? Like, what's going on? Like, does this match have any rules or no rules at all? When they legitimately, like, they're throwing, like, stanchions at, Jericho throwing stanchion at MJF's face, and they're fighting into the crowd for, like, a good 5-10 minutes. That was the only criticism I would have for this entire pay-per-view, was that was just kind of, there were no rules. And I know Jim Cornette's going to have fun with that. But anyways, so Kenny Omega wins. He beats Christian by doing a one-winged angel from the top turnbuckle. Slams him, pins him, wins. Then all of the elite guys come down the ring. They beat up on Christian. Omega says, there's no one that's ever going to be able to beat me for this title because either they don't work here or they're dead. Lights turn off. Everyone's getting excited. Music hits. It's fucking Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole is all elite, baby. I popped. Everyone in the auditorium popped. Adam Cole comes down to the ring. Stares Kenny Omega face to face. By the way, prior to this, before this, Jungle Boy and Jurassic Express tried to come out to save Christian, but they all got beat up, and beat up by the elite guys. So, going back to what I said, so after that, Adam Cole comes down to the ring, stares Kenny Omega down face to face and the rest of the elite guys. Then he super kicks Jungle Boy. Adam Cole, I can't say turned heel, but he debuts as a heel. Completely swerved everyone and says, hey, these guys are my best friends. The Elite are the best wrestling group in professional wrestling. Completely swerved everyone. We're thinking, okay, well, this is it. This is the end of the show. Kenny Omega says, attempts to do his shtick where he says goodbye and good night. But before he completes the sentence and before he says goodnight, another tune hits, a very familiar tune hits. And at this point, the crowd goes fucking nuts. The crowd in the Now Arena goes nuts. The crowd in the theater that I was watching this pay-per-view at going nuts. It's Bryan Danielson in AEW, and he's coming down the pipe, and he and Jurassic Express and Christian, the other baby faces, they get the one up on the elite guys. The elite guys, run back up the ramp with their tail between their legs, and I mean, it is just a magical moment. And AEW ends with Daniel Bryan being the newest signing to AEW. And I mean, that's it. Like, this was great. The one thing I really liked about this, AEW has a show in New York. Daniel Bryan, it was leaked out or reported that Daniel Bryan's debut was going to be bumped up to Chicago, to come to Chicago tonight, because of they didn't know what the safety regulations would be for the New York show, in terms of COVID and whatnot. So they bumped that up. Having Adam Cole debut first to divert that rumor that got leaked out was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. When Adam Cole came out, I wasn't even thinking of Daniel Bryan at that point. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I thought Daniel Bryan was going to debut tonight, and maybe Adam Cole was going to debut at the New York show. No, they gave us Adam Cole tonight and Daniel Bryan on top of it. But by them giving us Adam Cole first and did that whole little swerve, it was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't even think about Daniel Bryan. I'm like, okay, this is the end of the show. Then Daniel Bryan's music hits, and they topped it. I mean, they gave us two double scoops of ice cream when you didn't even ask for it. You asked for one scoop, they said, no, you know what, bitch, here's a second. And they gave us two scoops of ice cream. We got Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan debuting on the same night as the same night that CM Punk had his first wrestling match back in 7 years. This was fucking incredible. This was incredible. This excited so many wrestling fans. This tonight was a moment where if you were a wrestling fan or if you were someone who were a lapsed wrestling fan who did not like wrestling, who hadn't watched wrestling in a long time, but you took the time to watch this pay-per-view tonight, this rejuvenated your love and your passion for wrestling. Hands down. AEW, they just crewed tonight. You know, CM Punk was the first, in my opinion, the first official sign to say, hey, we mean business. But now that you've got Daniel Bryan on top of this, which we knew was rumored to come anyway, but just to officially see it happen now tonight, on top of Punk, and now you just got a free, you know, a new free agent in Adam Cole. You just signed on top of that, who, you know, like I've said before, Adam Cole, I'm a big fan. He can be, you know, the present and future for AEW. AEW are here to play. They're here to fucking play. And for every wrestling fan, or not even just wrestling fan, but WWE fans in particular that shit on AEW, call it a piss and company, call it, you know, all these other things and says it sucks or whatever, you cannot deny it anymore. You cannot deny it anymore. All Elite Wrestling are here. They're here to stay. They're here to fucking play. They're here to compete. When I say compete, I'm not saying be direct with WWE and take them down and take them over, because nobody's ever going to take over WWE. WWE's demise is going to come by its own hands. It's not going to be due to any other wrestling company putting them out of business. They're too far ahead in the game, too high up in the mountain for any other wrestling company to topple them. So if WWE ever falls off their mountain or off their high horse, it'll be due to their own shortcomings. But AEW, when I say they're here to compete, they are here in terms of they are a legitimate wrestling company. They are a legitimate second option. They are here to stay. They have the talent. They have the money. They have the TV. And I say this as a wrestling fan, not as an AEW loyalist, but as a wrestling fan who watches it all, who watches the AEWs, the Impacts, the New Japans, the WWE. It is about fucking time we get a wrestling company in America that is an alternative and that gives wrestling fans what we want, and that gives us wrestling fans content and wrestling matches that we enjoy, and not give us some Sesame Street bullshit or give us some content and product that does not grow up with us. It's about time. It's about time. And knowing what we know about NXT and the rebranding of that, and I've just made a video on that should be uploading soon. That was it for WWE. NXT was WWE's last good product. And yes, SmackDown's good, SmackDown's great, but SmackDown has these seasons where it's good for about a good 6 months to maybe a year, and then it'll become trash. It's not consistent. SmackDown's not consistent. Unlike Raw, Raw's been consistently bad. SmackDown gets good and then it gets bad. It's seasons with SmackDown. NXT was really the only consistently good thing that they had, and they just pretty much, the Vince, I would say, is going to pretty much, I can't say ruin it, because we don't know what the rebrand will look like or what the product would be like, but ain't nobody really going into this rebrand of NXT with high hopes. My point is that the momentum has shifted. The momentum in professional wrestling has shifted into AEW's favor, and me as a wrestling fan, and a fan of AEW who has watched this company grow from day one, who's followed everything, every article about this company, and to see where they are now, just 2 years in, 2.5 years in, it is incredible. It is incredible. This has to be one of the fastest rising wrestling companies that I've seen in my lifetime, hands down. WCW took years before they got to where they were. ECW never really hit the ground. TNA could have been where AEW is now, but they had some issues that held them back as well. This has to be the fastest wrestling company I've ever seen rise to prominence like this in just 2.5 short years. It's incredible, and I'm damn glad I've been a fan of AEW and I've watched this company grow since day one, and to see where they are now in 2021 of September. You guys let me know what you think about this. I thought this pay-per-view was great. I think this was the best pay-per-view. Well-produced matches from top to bottom. There weren't a lot of botches. Because AEW pay-per-views, you can make a laundry list of the botches in an AEW pay-per-view. There weren't really any. There was probably maybe one or two. Commentary tonight was great. I gotta mention that. Commentary was great. It was funny. The banter between some of the guys back and forth. Commentary was good. It was an enjoyable show. It really was. It was an enjoyable show. This was the best AEW pay-per-view in this company's history. They can make more excellent pay-per-views, but tonight was a history-making event for this company, and this was the best AEW pay-per-view in its 2-year history. You guys let me know what you think about this in the box below. Comment, subscribe. Peace.